So we'll get back to that big story. Let's go to Russell in Star. Russell, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Are you a big fan of Luke Combs?
Not country music, Kevin. I like classical, but, conservatives like classical too. The liberals don't have the corner on art as they think they do. But anyways, Kevin, regarding the call yesterday from the woman who was a Satanist, and she in fact said "Hail Satan" a couple times, and how I would just like to highlight a few things, how she connected sexuality with the kingdom of darkness and the enemy of God very clearly. And, that's what I've known for years. I did a video about 8 years ago titled "The Sexualization of America" on my YouTube channel, the hypersexualization of America. And because I knew it had a spiritual connection, and of course she was revealing perfectly that to be so. The spiritual nature of the war connected to Marxism, which is also a spiritual reality. So Marxism and revolutionary Marxism using human sexuality to make the population unhealthy, to revolutionize the Christian nature of America is what we're seeing, actually. And those are their turning towards God. An example, in Serbia, they had a scheduled LGBT parade coming up this month, and there were 100,000 people out on the street with the priests and everybody, and they stopped it. And the president, Alexander Vucic, stopped that parade from happening, saying it was too divisive. I mean, callers here are talking about protecting kids, and then Putin made a law to protect kids in his country. Kevin, I'd like to ask you, why is it that, please just answer this question, why is it that politicians avoid the social conservative issue over the decades in America?
Wow. Because social conservatism has been labeled as toxic, and the way to really get out of being the way to Russell to get out of standing for something is to just say you're a libertarian. And when I first came to the state, I called out all the libertarians, because you have to stand for something. You have to talk about values and traditional American values and traditional religious values. And if you don't, you have nothing. But that's the way, that way the business community will be more comfortable with you. Again, I see the absurdity when you have the business community, and the Daily Caller did a profile on this, that you have the entire business community of this area pro-gay pride, and there aren't as many, gay people. What is it, 10% of the population will say, 5%? 95% of the people are something else, but those folks there have made it that's what you do, so you're not labeled toxic and people don't come after you. I think it's reminiscent of what Jesse Jackson used to do with the Rainbow Coalition, that he'd go to Coke and say, well, you're going to give me money or, in some various ways, some type of initiative. And if you don't, well, then you're going to be on the bad list.
Well, Kevin, those companies that capitulate to the shakedown like that, I say they prove themselves to be cowards. And every Christian that is living a pure life before God, and even were previously sexually deviant, as I was, and yet got the power from God to live the purity, okay? And let me just say this real quick, Kevin. The solution to every sexual deviant in America and the world is where the body of Jesus Christ was crucified on the cross. And when that happened, I and you, Kevin, were crucified on the cross. And a dead person, excuse me, cannot think sexual thoughts, perform sexual parts.
Right.
Deeds.
Russell, please stand by for a moment. Didn't see our great friend Jeff Manasso joining us from Jeff Manasso. The truth hurts. We appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, our great friend Jeff Manasso. Back to you, Russell and Starr. Sorry about that. We're a little carried away with Luke Combs here today.
Not a problem, Kevin. Just to summarize what I was talking about, the mortification that took place at the cross and the resurrection is the solution to the restoration of America if people had the faith in that specifically, because they would gain power over sexual deviance and sexual spirits. Now, the politicians who avoid the social issue, maybe they need to become Christian nationalists. Maybe don't be afraid of those words and say that we need to take back the United States. Now, I know they tried it during Pat Robertson. I was reading a book recently by George Gilder, The Life After Google, and I went on YouTube and I saw him on the Dick Cavett show. I guess that was early 70s. And there were these three homosexual guys there attacking George Gilder because he had written a book about traditional family and so forth. This thing's been going on for decades, Kevin. And when the international Marxists saw that in American society, they reach in and they exploit it. So when you look at the international politics, you see that the LGBTQ and the Western transformation of all the West and the demand of it, of the whole world, it is a fact. I mean, every State Department, every embassy throughout the world is lit up in the LGBT flag. The Ukraine is embracing it, and others are resisting it. I mean, Kevin, what do you think? I mean, these traditional cultures of the world are going to be forced to become LGBT active.
Right, and that's why you've got Putin. He's not down with that.
Right. Well, anyways, thanks a lot, Kevin, for letting me talk today.
Hey, Russell, I know it's not easy, and sometimes people don't understand that because we hear so many voices, but to admit past sins and admit past indiscretions, that doesn't go unnoticed by everybody listening. And we thank you for...
Well, one thing, Kevin, please, the power to overcome. This is the key that should be heralded by the politicians and the people. The power to overcome past sexual patterns. Just let me leave that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell and Starr. Phone numbers here.